All right.
be it a two men, two women, man and woman, etc.
I mean,
Okay.
And I always kind of defer to that. That should do, and you can marry for religious reasons. I respect that and all that. And you can also marry for legal reasons, the sharing of property, if there's wealth involved in the thing, and all that sort of thing. You have to work that out with your partner on that. And those are, I think, perfectly fine, when I married my present wife, and I always joke, like I said, my first wife's from Taiwan and my second wife's from the country of Indiana. And I didn't really want to get married again, but I thought that was the right thing to do, and we've been together ever since then. But, we may have just lived together and all that, but I also thought that on property rights and things like that, if it goes, obviously you don't want to get to the courts or anything on that, but I thought that would just be a respectful thing to do on that. So that's what I say on that, So in other words, my personal opinion on that doesn't matter, but the law should not impede that. Laws exist to keep you doing from horrible crimes and everything like that. Marriage to whoever you want is not a crime.
It's really only been about 7 years or so. It hasn't been that long since marriage has been made equal for LGBTQIA tax-paying citizens. There's over 1,000 federal laws that benefit married couples that gay people were excluded from for many, many years, and Social Security benefits that go to the partner of a widow in a couple. In gay situations, that didn't happen. And other people in the family could come in and take everything away from that person who'd spent a lifetime with their partner. There were absolutely no rights. And it's really truly about equality in our country and equality under the law and not being a second-class citizen. But when George W. Bush ran for president, in both campaigns, he used gay people as the monster for his voters to be afraid of. And gay marriage was put on the ballot in every state as a way to bring, those conservative voters to the polls to vote for George W. Bush, while they also checked off their thing in support of straight marriage. And how dare gay people want to be able to get married? And I, did a performance piece at that time that I performed all over called Straight Marriage, where I wore a bridal gown in the piece. And my whole point of it was, why are you so afraid of gay people ruining marriage? Straight people have screwed it up pretty bad themselves. I mean, I was in all three of both of my parents' weddings. Even the very first one, I may have only been, a little tiny cell inside my mom's body at the time, but I was there. And so I have a lot of mixed feelings about marriage, but I will fight for the right of my gay brothers and sisters and LGBTQI community to have equality under the law. But I don't know if I personally want to ever get married in the sense of how our culture views marriage. And it's so much about property and ownership and not always about love, Marriage is not always about love.
Yeah, well, they say that money won't buy you love. When you got Karen says yes, it can. Well, from what I've heard, when people that are rich, well off, have a lot of property, a lot of money, they are often not happy. And with the love that they can have, maybe because they have those things, it's not true love or they're not happy. So, Mark, you said something that I think I need to tag, and that was about the change. Progress doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while, okay? Whether it's same-sex relationships or whether it's racism, it takes a while. And it's not limited to just the legal systems, but also social change as well. Now, my understanding, and I'm just speaking from Calvin's point of view here, is that changes in the law, while it may be significant, doesn't always lead to a change of heart or a change of thought in people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, You know, in the 7 years, a lot of progress has been made, but still there's so much further to go. Same thing with racism.
Oh
You
God.
know, the laws have been in place since what, 67, and we still have so much work to do. And social change is often fueled with interactions between these people from both sides. And that's where the growth, it seems, actually happens. That's when you can start changing minds and changing hearts, is with that social change. I mean, come on, you have to get to know somebody before you can say, oh yeah, well, they bleed like I do, same color blood. They're just trying to live a good life like I am. Hey, so and so is not that bad after all. But it takes a while to get to that point. Progress doesn't happen overnight. Case in point, in my family, and I'll just say the men, for example, my uncles, my cousins, grandparents, even um, my dad, they were totally against interracial marriages. Okay. Now, my third, yeah, second generation of cousins are now, getting married, and they're getting married to people that's not African American. That first Thanksgiving, that first Thanksgiving it was lit. I have never seen anything like this in my life. Here you have older people that's in their 60s and 70s, and they're sitting around the dining table, and everybody got the sour puss on. And then you have the generation that's in their 20s, and they're in love, and they're sitting next to each other, and they're giving each other Google eyes. And I'm just sitting back observing all of this, and it was hilarious. It was hilarious. Of course, after after dinner, the younger people went out partying or whatever. So we were left to discuss things. And I was maybe in my 50s at that point, so I could stick around and talk with the elders. And I tried to tell them about changes in points of views, just from the point of view of us as Black people. We are not going to see change while we still have hate in our hearts for others. You have to change your heart and change your thoughts. And I'm not going to say that it went well. I just said what I had to say. And, I'm like that crazy nephew from Chicago now. I'm not even part of New York anymore. But yeah, yeah. But it went like that. So now those second generation cousins, they're having offspring now. They're having kids now. And it's a whole nother conversation. And I can't wait for this Thanksgiving to happen, because 3 of the kids have been born since last Thanksgiving. So I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun at the table. And hopefully,
Are you still invited back?
whether I am or not, I'm going to bust in.
Okay.
Whether I'm invited or
That's
not, I really don't. When it's family, Charlie, I really don't care. My thoughts and my views are just as important as anybody else. And let them try to keep me out. That's not going to happen. But now that the grandkids and the great grands are born, I want to see. I want to see the change in them, because I guarantee you, there's going to be a change.
Yeah.
It most certainly is going to be a change, because those little faces, they're going to fall in love with them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
what we need to do is we need to have better conversations about love, what love is, what it looks like, how to give it and how to receive it, so that you'll know what it is. So many people think they know what love is, but it's not that thing. Like you said, they get married, and They could have dated for 6, 7 years, get married, and poof, pow, marriage doesn't even last 6 months. Love should be unconditional, but with conditions. And when I say that, when you're not being loving, those are the conditions that a person doesn't have to put up with. It's the little things that you do that can make a difference for someone, to let them know that you love them. You could get up and you can make toast and tea for breakfast for that person and surprise them. Or you can go out and you can buy a 5 carat diamond and surprise that person. When you love someone, you do things just because you can for them. It shouldn't be a tit for tat. When it becomes tit for tat, then your radar should go up. And ask yourself some questions. And one thing we have to do is be honest with ourselves. Recognize when it's not good. Recognize.
All right, so no, go ahead, Karen. I'm sorry.
No, I'm done. I'm finished.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was just going to say, so for the sake of this podcast, let's put a definition
Yes.
on what does love in diversity mean? What does love in diversity mean? Let's put our own definition on this.
Why are we putting why diversity? Why are we adding diversity?
We're adding diversity because that's the way the world sees things. Men, same sex, or different races. That's the reason we're using the word diversity. Otherwise, we already have the definition of love. And from what we just said, it gets skewed depending on who you're talking about. So, what is the definition of love in diversity?
I can't answer that. I can't
Recognizing. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, I didn't want to talk over you. Like, recognizing that everybody, including yourself, deserves the same amount of respect, and that you should, if something makes you uncomfortable, wonder where your judgment is coming from, and if it leads you to feel like, make sure that the discomfort, question it, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Like, if something makes you uncomfortable, ask where your judgment is coming from, because at the root of things, everybody, even if their situation is different than yours, their culture, their relationship, et cetera, deserves the same amount of respect that you do. You have to kind of back up to having a healthy sense of self and healthy sense of boundaries. And Karen, I think part of what you were talking about is not necessarily everybody has that, but I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent. But that to me would kind of be a starting point for talking about making sure that you are loving, identifying love in diversity, and also loving and championing diversity.
Okay. Now that's great, Amy. I definitely agree with you, but can we shorten that?
I kind of like how Karen asked, why diversity? That question of why include that? Because ultimately, in the purest sense, we wouldn't have that. I think I always think about gardens that I work with, and in gardening, diversity is key. The more diverse of the garden, the healthier the garden is, because all of these plants and species become stronger because of that diversity. And that's really how nature wants it to be. It's humans that put all these separations in place. And a lot of times they do this to have us fighting amongst ourselves, so that we're not going after the ultimate, problem with it. And I think for me, like the biggest planet that I can see is Venus, the planet of love. And it reminds me that we don't have to ration out love. There's so much of it that we think we have to give it out in bits and pieces, or we're not going to have enough. And really, it's an abundant thing that is like an overflowing river that's always going to be giving us more and more. And to me, the way to conquer fear is always with love. the enemy of love